February board meeting. I know it's cold and a little yucky, I guess would be the best word out there for tonight. And I just thank you all for taking the time to come and be with us tonight. Where did he go? Maverick. Maverick, would you like to come up and say the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Maverick, we welcome you tonight. We're excited that you're here. We know that you attend Archer, and we would just love an opportunity for you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so hi, my name is Maverick Steven. I'm glad to be here today. And I've lived in Springdale my whole life, so I've been in the Springdale School District my whole life. In elementary, I was kind of a troubled child. I would go home with those little red slip every day. There wasn't a day where I didn't get in trouble. Those were good times, though. I had fun. And it was, I think, around middle school where I started to actually focus in school, actually do my work. And it was like that up until my freshman year. When I hit freshman year, I started to get into the bad habit of sleeping too much. And I started skipping school because of it. And it was like that throughout my freshman, sophomore, and junior year. And then my senior year, I got transferred to Archer. And it was there where my teachers really told me, if you keep doing what you do, we're going to see you next year. And I was like, do I want to go to school another year? And I decided I should actually focus in, hone in on my work. And now I'm working to get my seat time back up, get the credits that I lost because of seat time. And I'm reworking classes that I failed via Edgenuity. And even in Archer, I found out what I'd like to do after high school, which is be a filmmaker. And this Friday, I have a meeting with a filmmaker based out of New York.
Oh.
And the reason I really love filmmaking is because of filmmakers like Casey Neistat, the filmmaker of Old Boys, a Korean filmmaker named Jang Chang-wook. I don't really know how to say his name, and Steven Spielberg. When I think about work habits, I really feel like my work ethic is lacking, and I feel like I need to push on, do what I can, and just be a better student overall.
Can you tell me a little bit about the my glasses are the Latinx project that you're a part of?
So I used to be a part of the project. So the Latinx project is a nonprofit organization that gives voice to like people who wouldn't otherwise. They do things like plays, songwriting, and things like that. And when I was there, they really taught me a lot. They really taught me like how to focus in on the work I'm doing, and how to further a craft.
Well, board, do you have any questions for him or?
So this is your last year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what are you planning, what's your plans from when you get out?
So I was looking into colleges. I was thinking about going to NWAC, but after the meeting, that filmmaker I'm planning to meet, I'm gonna be asking if I should go to NWAC or just go straight into a film school.
And what's your meeting with this gentleman from New York? Do you know what that's gonna be about?
So it's just gonna be me asking questions over Zoom on like the struggles he had to overcome to be a filmmaker, what I should expect going into college.
Okay. Good.
What is something in history that you like to learn about?
Something in history I like to learn about, the Roaring '20s. I heard those are good times.
That's great.
If,
I'm sorry.
That's okay. If you, you knew of another student that was struggling and having a hard time, staying in school, do you have anything that you would tell them after all of your experiences?
Honestly, if they're having trouble staying in school, I feel like, because for me, it was just my bad sleeping habits. Once I got into like a fixed sleeping schedule, I was able to wake up early, I was able to sleep early, and I was just able to make my day a whole lot more productive.
So having a good schedule?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Let's say you do decide to go to film school. Is there a film school anywhere around this neck of the woods, or do you have to go to like the East Coast or West Coast, or?
So there is one in southern Missouri.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, sir. And my advisor and I, she sent in she asked if we can get like pamphlets on like how that works.
Mhm. Well, good. At least there's one close by.
Well, Board, if we don't have any more questions, Maverick, we really are glad that you're here, and we wish you the very best. And I know that we're going to see you do great things. And if you do start film school, we'd love to see some of your work and see where you're headed. So, thanks.
Good luck.
Good job.
Board, you've had time to look at the agenda. Do we have any changes?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
There's a motion by Mr. Emerson, a second by Mr. Bell to approve the agenda as submitted. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Board, you've also had time to look at the consent agenda. Any questions, concerns, or anything you'd like to pull from the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as submitted.
A motion by Mr. Hutchinson, a second by Mrs. Creek to accept the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Dr. Cleveland?
Thank you, Ms. Cook. It's good to be here tonight. It was awfully nice to see Maverick. I met him before the meeting, such a nice young man. Look forward to seeing him grow and develop. Tonight, presentation by the superintendent, we get to introduce three amazing people. Our first introduction this evening is the assistant principal for the Jim D. Rollins Elementary School. As you know, Dr. Freeman was hired and you approved to go to the new school, and she selected Miss Beth Carter. Miss Beth Carter, would you mind coming to the microphone, please?
I have to say, it's not every year you get to open a new school, and especially one of a school of innovation. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think it's going to be an exciting new adventure. It's going to be different because I've been at George for 12 years. So when I moved to Springdale, I was hired as a fourth grade teacher there. So I did it for 4 years, and then 2 years as IF, and this is my 6th year finishing up as AP there. So it's going to be different.
Time flies.
Yeah, it does.
I had no idea it'd been 12 years.
It has, yes.
Well, congratulations. We're excited to have you there and know that it'll be in good hands.
What are you most looking forward to about going
I would say just seeing a brand new school, but it's going to be different, the students and the parents, and just making those relationships. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Good
there?
luck.
Open, right?
Yeah, August 2021, yes, it's going to be ready to go.
Buses are going to run, so.
Yeah. So, exciting. And I believe our Facebook page is going to launch and our website, and so it'll be ready to go. And our great film crew has worked on about a 2-minute video to kind of give everybody a little glimpse. So
When's all it's supposed to go out?
I think it's supposed to go out tomorrow morning.
Okay.
I think
Cool.
so, yeah, so. Oh, I just finished my specialist in educational degree in superintendence, so I graduated in December.
Yay. Congratulations.
next step, doctorate, so we'll see. When I start on that, I haven't decided yet, because I have a senior at HAR-BER High School, so she'll be graduating in May, and then I also brought my boyfriend James tonight, so they could see what's going on in Springdale.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate this
Keep
opportunity.
up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beth.
Thanks.
We know that the team's very solid out to the new school. And fortunately and unfortunately, it took the entire team from George. So next, we need to replace the team from George. And it just so happens that we have an outstanding candidate to do that, who's been working in our district for a long time. Everyone knows Mr. Justin Swope, but now we get to introduce Mr. Justin Swope as the new principal of George Elementary School. Mr. Swope?
I enjoyed the quick history lesson I had on George Elementary with Randy at the beginning. And I've heard your stories for years about being a parent over there, and I just look forward to being a part of the legacy that's over there. I told Dr. Cleveland that I just kind of counted it a blessing, and as we've gone through the process that's led to where we're at right now, I can think of worse things than continuing to be a principal in what I consider one of the best districts in the nation. And so I counted a blessing to continue to be a principal at George Elementary. I think you met last time in December, when we were here, you got to meet Mrs. Hernandez. Sonia is going to be the assistant principal. We're going to continue to work together, we've worked together. This is our third year, her first year as an assistant. I've been a mentor for part of that time for her as she got her administrative license, and so looking forward to continue to grow her and have you guys see her become one of Springdale's next principals. And so Mrs. Hernandez has a little bit of a story with George Elementary, and so I want to just give you a chance to reintroduce yourself and maybe share a little bit about that.
Yes.
I think it's great.
Thank you all for this opportunity, and thank you to Dr. Cleveland. So growing up, we lived in that neighborhood, and we lived and grew up in Brookhaven. I didn't go to George Elementary. I went to George Junior High, and I was one of the first classes that opened up George Junior High. And my brother-in-laws, they live right across from George Junior High, and 3 of them went to George Elementary K-5. So I'm really excited to go and be a part of George Elementary and continue to build relationships with those families and that staff. So thank you all.
Exciting.
Mr. Swope's right. She's a rising star in Springdale. So, and of course, so is he. Next, Ms. Cook, we have consideration of school property bids submitted February 3rd, 2021. I'd like to introduce Mr. Kelly Hayes, who ushered that process.
Board, I believe you all have received the spreadsheet that we prepared showing the bids that we received on all of the properties. Overall, we were pleased. We didn't receive bids on track 2 or 3, but I'm pleased to report that we've had some of the bidders reach out to us asking us if we would consider a bid slightly lower or lower than the appraised price that was assigned. They just wanted to bid on it but felt like the appraised price was a little high. So I have reached out to those individuals as well as the individuals that bid on tract 1 because it's in the same area, to see if they might be interested in submitting a bid for those 2 pieces. The process, well, first of all, you see the bids before you. We received multiple bids on all of them with the exception of tract number 4, which is the Fishback Church, where we received a single bid on that one. All of these all of these bids that are before you were above the appraised price of each of those properties. So Dr. Cleveland and I are pleased with this. We have traditionally worked with Realty Title, and so assuming we receive board approval this evening, then we will be working with Realty Title and the high bidders to close this property within the next 60 days. So I'll be happy to answer any questions, though, you may have about the process.
Board, does anyone have any questions?
Are we
or-
gonna take more bids on the 2 and 3, or
Yes.
are we just gonna?
No, we're asking those that might be interested that we've heard from, if they would want to submit another bid for 2 or 3, slightly below the appraised value, because we didn't receive any bids at that rate.
Now, the other option that we all discussed over the last few months is if we don't receive any bids on some of the pieces, do you want to take them and have a real estate agent try to garner a higher dollar figure? Or do you want to stay solid on the minimum bid? So it's a process here that really is in your hands, that you will decide what you want to do as a next step. And even if you want to accept the high bids for each individual piece this evening.
Has there been any discussion on why those 2 tracks did not garner any bids? Is there something that we missed first time around,
Well-
why they're not?
I don't think we've missed anything. I think that the general public who maybe know about pieces of property, or even realtors, I know one realtor visited with me briefly, and she said that she just didn't feel like that those 2 pieces of property were valued appropriately, that maybe the comps were just a little high that the appraiser looked at. They just felt like they weren't that valuable as the minimum bid was.
Well, if you look at it, tract 1 is just shy of 25,000 an acre. Tract 3 is 25,000 an acre, and tract 2 is 62,000 an acre.
So if I remember my map correctly, it's kind of right beside, on the Ritter side of the other tract, which is tract 1, right? On
Yes.
dot. So it's,
Kind of goes up the hill.
okay, so it's that one to the north of that, and then to the east
Yes,
is
sir.
the other tract that goes is it up the hill?
That's right. There's a,
So wouldn't that be part of the reason they wouldn't think that?
it could be.
Because of the hill? I just remember the hill,
Yeah,
that's what I was
I
thinking.
fully expect to get some interest in these, just not at the prices that were listed.
So do we have to reopen the whole process for those 2 properties, or can we
Well-
just decide that we'll take lower bids through another?
And to piggyback on that, do we have to set a new minimum, or can we just leave it open to the highest bidder?
Well, the approach that Dr. Cleveland and I have kind of taken was to just, for those that had expressed some interest and perhaps just did not bid, or expressed interest at providing an alternative bid, to contact those initially to see if there's interest in those. We hadn't really talked about going through the whole bid process again. I guess it would kind of depend on how close we are to the values that were listed here. And we are not prepared to bring anything to you tonight on tracks 2 and 3. But hopefully by this time next month, we can have some discussion with you about those.
Is there a specific direction you'd like for us to go in offloading these 2 properties? Would
I mean,
you
we could
prefer us
certainly
to hire
Go
a
through the
real
process
estate
all
agent?
over again for those 2, and just maybe not establish a minimum bid, but I would like to, it'd be your pleasure.
If we don't establish a minimum bid, do we have to then take whatever offer is made?
No, we put in, we always put in that we reserve the right to reject any or all bids.
So for these other tracks that we do have bids above the minimum bid, can we do we need to make a separate motion for each one of those, or is there one motion that we can do for all of them at one time, or how do we need to move forward on those?
I think one motion is fine.
It's however you want to do it. If you want to do each individual piece, that's fine, or as a group, that's fine. Whatever the board prefers.
I do want to share with the board that I know there has been perhaps some discussion about the Washington building and its historical significance to Springdale, some concern about that. We have talked with the person who is the high bidder on the Washington building. That person is a resident of downtown Springdale, and he has assured us that it is not his intention to alter that building in any way, since he lives a rock's throw from it. So his intention is to maintain the building, restore, and use it in that manner, but there are no plans at all to demolish the building.
I like the idea of reaching out to those that have already reached out to you about track 2 and track 3, and then just see where it goes from there, and then we can revisit in March as far as if it's just substantially lower than what we're wanting, then we move on to the next thing, but, unless someone else has a,
My only concern with that would be if there was somebody that would be interested but didn't say anything, like we may be missing some potential buyers if we just reach out to the ones who reached out to us. So like I would almost, and I'm just totally throwing this out here, but I would almost prefer to like re-advertise on
Okay.
the Facebook page and the website and say these 2 properties didn't sell. We're just gonna accept any and all bids and just kind of redo the process.
We can certainly do that.
Especially if you don't put a minimum bid on there,
Yeah.
because that's gonna attract a whole lot more people. Because a lot of people looked at 280.
Yeah.
And were like, I'm not even gonna bother with it. But if we put it back out there and don't have a minimum bid, then it's gonna attract more buyers.
Okay.
So I would agree that we.
That-
put it
That's
back out
fine.
there.
Since I've been through it once, I think it'll be
You're a pro.
less painful the second time.
Facebook Live again. We're just giving you another
Yes, that's true.
15 minutes of fame.
There we go.
I just think there could be a lot of people who would be
Mhm.
interested,
Mhm.
but maybe, like Nick said, it was just way too high, so they just didn't say anything.
Right.
I agree with that, because when you remove the minimum bid, I think so too, that we'll see some more movement there. But also, nothing to stop us to ask those other people that we
Right,
do know
right.
if they want a bid that's reopening.
Yeah, for sure, reach out and let them know, make sure they know that it's reopened.
Sure. Yes. Okay. Be happy to do that.
okay. Any discussion on the other tracks?
I think we just make a motion to accept all the high bids unless somebody has something else to say.
You just,
I make a motion that we accept the high bid on the other 5 properties.
wait a minute,
Oh, wait.
do we have, do you want to speak? Is,
This is not, we can't, can I?
I'm the assistant pastor of Fishback Church,
Uh-huh.
and so, forgive me, I know you got to pull it.
No, that's fine.
Uh,
What's your procedure?
I just wanted to provide the council with information about the deed. When the deed was signed for the original transfer of the owner of Fishback Church, owners
Mhm.
to the school district, there is a reverter clause in the final paragraph of that deed that says if in fact the school stops having school there at any point in time, then it reverts back to the original owner. So it would be my recommendation as a concerned citizen and as a assistant pastor of that church, that the school take that under advisement, selling the property that was supposed to revert back to the original owner. It's our understanding, we're part of a fellowship, but there's an association of churches, and it's our understanding that the original pastor that founded the Fishback Church in the Fishback School actually had the permission of those heirs whenever they took possession of that. We believe that to be in the early 60s, but we don't have the documentation.
I'm going to stop you for just a second. We, obviously, this has been out in the public for weeks. My concern is why you didn't come to the district or to, with the information before we chose to vote tonight.
Before tonight I did. Before tonight I did, but I didn't have all this information until just recently. And so I just looked it up, and to answer your question,
I know.
one of our members has a bid on one of the properties.
Okay.
So,
Kendra?
thank you.
So we do have a copy of the deed that I believe it's the same. It's pretty unique in that it was handwritten in 1890. Do I have all of the details of exactly what that means for our district? No. There are some things in it, like our current legal name is Springdale School District number 50. The school district in the deed was Washington County School District number 60-something. Also, the right of reverter would go back to the family members. Tracing those heirs is not something that we have done. But I will say, as part of the process in moving the property towards closure, we'll include a title search where people who are experts in exactly what needs to be done in researching what a deed from 1890 looks like in 2021 will do that. And if we get to the point where it looks like the district doesn't have the right to sell that, then we won't move forward. So we're aware of it. I wish I could decipher and tell you exactly what the deed means. It's really interesting. It's actually a beautifully written piece to see how legal documents were created a long, long time ago. But we're aware of it. We're working through it. And if something changes on our ability to sell the property, we'll come back and visit.
So actually, by voting on it, we're allowing the title work to go through and would either confirm what you're saying or wouldn't.
If I understood it right, tonight's decision was to accept the bid, and we respectfully request, the church would respectfully request that the school board take under consideration or advisement, issue a hand, and not vote on this particular, but in fact delay that as per delaying the agreement.
But if we delay it, then we're not moving forward with the title search, is my understanding.
I understood that it was an agreement that we were voting tonight to accept the bid. And hence, by accepting the bid, then there was the implication that that property would be sold. And all I'm saying is, if our recommendation respectfully would be that the work be done to secure the validity of the deed and an effort made to make sure that by voting to sell it, that in fact that was a viable option for the school district to do from a legal standpoint. Thank you.
Yeah, so, but I think what we're trying to explain is that if we don't vote on it, then there's not really a great way to move forward with
The title search.
research that it's gonna take to figure out what that means. If just because we accept it tonight doesn't mean that in 60 days it's 100% gonna close. If something comes up between now and then with the title company and they look at that and they do their research and they say, you guys don't have the right to sell this, then we terminate this contract that we're accepting tonight. Is that right?
Any other?
So Nick, would that be the same, for example, someone goes and makes an offer on a house and it doesn't pass inspection or it doesn't meet an appraisal?
Yeah, I mean, they do title search on every.
So whether or not you got an accepted offer or not, if something unbinds that contract, it's
Sure.
out of the contract.
There's lots of contingencies in the
So this would be
contract.
considered a contingency
That's right.
on our part.
That's right.
Ms. Clay, is there any way the motion should be made to make sure that we adhere to the contingency?
I think the motion just to accept the bids and move them forward towards closing is acceptable. And then if, with this property or any property, if there is an issue with actually closing, we'll have to bring that back to you to revisit.
I just want you to know, I'm not, and none of us are, we want to do what's right by you and by the school district and by everybody. And so I don't want us to come across as being rude or short, but just know that we will, without a doubt, make sure that it is done correctly and that everybody is represented right.
Mr. Hayes, do you have any other?
No, I don't. We're, as Ms. Clay has said, we'll go through the proper channels to make sure that each of these properties, which we wanted to see if there was interest in them first before we even pursued that. So we will be working with the title company to secure that information.
If one property does fall through, let's say buyer's financing falls through, does it just automatically go to the next highest bid?
It does.
Okay.
As long as it's above the minimum.
Yes.
Yeah, all of that.
Ms. Cook, I feel like I need to say something on this position. I respect the gentleman from the church, but we have no lease agreement or no agreement with them at all to even use the facility. And at this particular moment, it doesn't seem to be appropriate to not consider a bid on that facility, considering really they're using the facility at no cost. So.
Any other questions or concerns, Board?
We have a motion.
I have a motion by Mrs. Creek to accept,
I'll second it to move it forward.
a second by Mr. Hutchinson to accept the highest bids as presented. All those in favor? Okay. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you so much.
And we're using Realty Title, is that who?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. We've had some interesting times in the legislature as of late, and if you keep up with the news every day, it continues to become more and more interesting. Just wanted to give you a slight update. In the morning, I'll be leaving early to travel to Little Rock to continue the conversation where I'm the co-chair for the facilities and finance for AAEA. My stack of bills looks like this, and I know that you've been seeing them as well. They continue to increase. But currently, there are 26 bills in finance. I'm not going to go over all of those. There are just a few that I think I would like to highlight for you this evening to put on your radar. One that's just come out is a Senate joint resolution, and it's by Senator Mark Johnson. And it appears to remove adequacy in all of our current attributes for how school is done in Arkansas, for it to be voted on by the people. So we're going to see how that turns out. It is Senate Joint Resolution 4. I have a copy of it that I'll be happy to make for you tonight and send with you. It's a short, as my dad used to say, it's a short little old bill, doesn't do a whole lot, but it does a whole lot. It undoes everything. Everything we know how schools are funded and how they're organized and processed. And it appears that this particular joint resolution gives the legislature carte blanche control of all school districts in the state, and I'm not even sure a school board would be a part of that. So, Senate Joint Resolution 4. Interesting. So we'll discuss that tomorrow. Something that Springdale does not receive, but a vast majority of districts in the state do, is Senate Bill 207. It's a renewal of the enhanced transportation funding. It adds $6 million to this next year and $7.2 million to the second year of the biennium, and it is redistributed. The interesting portion, the reason why I'm mentioning it to you tonight, is because the Bureau of Legislative Research has not publicly provided the formula for how the money is developed and distributed. So we've asked for that information, and hopefully by tomorrow or the next day, one of our local or regional state representatives will have that information for us. The biggest bill of the day in regard to education is House Bill 1371. House Bill 1371 is known as the voucher bill. It's a new bill. Several local representatives have signed on. Charlene Fite from Cedarville, hers runs all the way up through Farmington and even up 112. And I think actually she's in my particular region. Robin Lundstrom, Clint Penzo, both signed on, Senator Bart Hester, and Bob Ballinger, who also represent our area. So they've signed on to this voucher bill for public money to follow students to private schools, and it allows for people to, with up to $10 million, to basically donate to the state to have a dollar-to-dollar removal of tax requirements on their sales. So if I wanted to donate $1 million toward this particular voucher, then I would have that million come off my tax liability. It's 29 pages. I think several of you have already read that. Most of you may already have. So it's an interesting bill that will continue to get traction. One of the main sponsors of the bill is Representative Evans from Cabot. He actually is the president of the school board at Cabot right now. The conversation is a voucher bill that's maybe the door's wide open, could be behind it. So create a bill that's palatable for public schools and charter schools and private schools at the same time. There's quite a bit of strings that goes with the money, so we'll see how that goes. Representative Evans and Representative Bragg will very likely be at our meeting tomorrow with the superintendent. So I'll have more information from that particular bill. Do you have any questions right now? Or I couldn't tell by reading your body language because I can't see your face, Mr. Owenby.
Dr. Cleveland?
Okay. Yes, sir.
That's the one that ASBA is most concerned about right now. It's got about 60 some odd sponsors signed on to it the last time I heard, and it's the horses out of the barn. I don't know that we're going to be able to push them back in at this point. You know, it's just trying to figure out how to make it as palatable as possible.
Did I hear you say he was president of the Cabot School Board?
Yes.
I didn't, you can do that?
That's kind of an oxymoron, isn't it?
It's, well, I asked the question, our counselor, I've asked it to several counselors, and our understanding is he couldn't seek reelection, but he could finish the term. I believe that there was a bill passed within the last decade or so that would allow that. But I always thought you couldn't. When I was a superintendent in another district, one of the board members ran for mayor and won and had to resign. So.
The Cabot is a public school, right?
Cabot's, yes.
Yeah.
Cabot's public school. Okay, there's some good bills out there too, by the way. We have House Bill 1009 by Wardlaw, which allows excess food to be distributed to students that they can take home from the cafeteria. That's a good thing. So it's a good thing for our district, and we're hopeful that that's able to pass all the way through. So far it has. House Bill 1101 increases the number of signatures required to petition a school board to meet. Right now, if 50 people get together and they're of the district and sign a petition for you to meet, you have to hold a school board meeting. So right now they're asking this bill to move it to 1% of the electorate or 50, whichever is more. So that's a pretty good bill. In a large district, it would take quite a few folks. House Bill 1102, Mr. Owenby might have particular interest in this one. It changes the number of board member training requirements through the year.
Probably increases it.
No, it actually makes it a little simpler and it helps you out a little bit. So that's House Bill 1102 if you want to follow that one.
I've donated a ton of money for that one already.
Oh,
Have they filed the bill yet on changing the election for millages?
yes, but it failed in the House today.
Oh, it didn't get out?
Didn't get out today.
Wow.
That's my understanding. Did you follow that too?
I didn't see the date that day.
Yeah, I believe it failed today. House Bill 1097, this was by Wooten, authorizes the AAA to create two separate athletic conferences, one for public, one for private. There are different views along that across the state, but you know, right now it doesn't seem like that would be a solid move from my perspective, you know, as a superintendent and also a AAA board member. I think our public schools do a good job. They do compete and they do win often. A lot of them do. But there's something in the works in the AAA right now to add another qualifier. So it's over a period of 8 to 10 years. If you're a power school then you can be moved up one division. So if you take a power school in the state and they're constantly winning state championships in whatever activity, then they can be moved up. It's primarily a football issue across the state, not other athletic competition areas. So we'll see how that goes. I think there is a fix in the works within the AAA, so potentially the bill's not needed, but it could create travel problems for private schools. It just, we want to be good partners with our private schools around us too. And it doesn't seem to be fair to them. That's my perspective. Okay. There are several others. I don't want to take up a lot of your time. But
Can I ask you about one?
Sure.
You
Put
may
me on
not-
the spot, Mr. Emerson.
You may not have it down there. It's House Bill 1218, the one about the common interests groups.
Yes, I believe it failed today as well in committee. It failed in committee today.
did?
I believe that's correct. If I'm wrong, I'll correct that with you, but I think that it didn't get out of committee today.
Okay.
There have been a few interesting bills that would have been good for Springdale. For example, the Marshallese bill that was put forward in committee for Marshallese to be able to be police officers, and it failed, interestingly.
I didn't understand that because we have police officers that are,
Yeah, but
do we not?
But many of our Marshallese police officers were born here, so technically they're citizens. So this would be for Marshallese that are not born here.
Oh, gotcha.
You know, if they're able to be, and I heard this on Kerm Radio today, if Marshallese folks are able to be in the military, then why not the police locally? And right now, I think we have 5 PD positions that they can't fill. So that's really a hardship for Springdale in this region, so.
So the legislature said you
It
can't.
failed in committee.
Marshallese cannot be police officers? That's what the legislature is basically saying?
If they're not.
Yes, if they're not citizens.
So I think the rule is that they have to be a U.S. citizen.
Yes.
So then, some Marshallese, if they weren't born in the 50 states, they don't get automatic citizenship, even though they can all come here.
I was gonna say, I thought they'd been given all the rights, basically,
No,
of
they're not
citizens.
citizens unless
Yeah.
they're born here. So if they have moved here and they've had their children here, then they would be U.S. citizens, but not.
It's been only in the last 4 years, I think, where the children, Marshallese children, were able to be on our Medicaid rolls, which that was really good legislation, and we were all pleased with that. It just seems like, from my perspective, and it's a judgment on my end, that some across the state may not be, since they don't have people that with free association kind of compact, they're ostracizing and not allowing some things that's just not fair. And I didn't want to go through tonight without having that in our record, because our Marshallese families are wonderful, our community is wonderful, and they've added so much to our community to make it what it is today. And just from my perspective, they serve our community too, and I would love to see them be able to serve in our police force. So they do a great.
Once the bill gets turned down a day, can it come back later on?
You can if they expunge the vote. I believe that, I think it may have passed on a voice vote, but did not pass on a roll call. That's my understanding.
Do we know what part of it people didn't like, or is that not discussed?
It wasn't in any conversations that I've had, so that would be speculation on my
Sometimes they can
part.
have multiple layers, and, if they don't like a specific layer, then,
Right.
they vote no.
I think the way it was done, it can come back, but I think the sponsor of the bill and the additional sponsor will have to do some work to try to get it through the committee. So, anyway. Without just boring you to death on some things, those are some highlights. If you have any other specific questions that I can answer, or maybe Ms. Kendra or Mr. Hayes, we'd be happy to do that. Okay, thank you very much.
Is Jeremy up next?
Yes, ma'am, he sure is.
Come on down.
You're the next contestant on.
Thanks.
Thought you were gonna get your picture taken.
Yeah, I'd rather not. I don't know.
changed
like
it
the-
to the agenda. I should have let Marcia load the photos. So we do have some updated photos, but they were actually taken last Thursday, because that's when the agenda was due. So we've made a lot of progress since then on the construction. Okay, so, the first set of pictures is actually, gonna be at, Rollins Elementary. And so that's area A and C that they have steel up. They are making a lot of progress. Area B, which is the middle area, we should receive all of the, structure, tomorrow. And then they'll start erecting the center area of that. So you can tell they've got the purlins up, and the structure on the sides, all of that is where the brick will go. So they're trying to get all that up, and then they'll start installing all the brick as soon as the weather permits. Yeah, the weather is not cooperating with us right now. But they are still putting up a lot of steel structure. So
Does it
they're,
have to be above a certain degree to get, to do your mortar and stuff?
it will, yeah.
Jeremy, before you leave Rollins Elementary School, we had a conversation with our contract manager the other day, and they were talking about the amount of steel costs, how it's increased at Flintco, and just all the cost overall. Right now, the decision that you made in order to build this building at the time you did probably saved us 30% in construction cost. So kudos to you and the decision to go ahead and do this now.
Yep. So they are doing a lot of other work. They're putting in curbs and gutters. They're going to lay some temporary asphalt in. That way we can get in if weather's not perfect without tracking up the slab and everything. We can still get equipment in and out. So they're doing a lot of other work that's not on these photos. And this is at SOI, the PAC. They're actually, our people went in and sealed all the concrete and acid etched it. And then so Monday they started actually drilling all the holes for the PAC seating. And they're doing a lot of the audio video equipment in that area right now. It doesn't look like this at all. I was over there yesterday, and they're getting a lot of that work done. There's some other views. All the wood on the sides looks really good. So it's going to be a nice facility. This was the stage last Thursday, so they're putting the masonite down on the floor, and then they're putting all the riggings up in the ceiling for the curtains and everything. So they're making a lot of progress there. This is the HAR-BER wrestling. They've got all the brick pretty much complete. On the inside, they're getting all the structure done on the interior, so it's moving really well. The HAR-BER baseball, they're actually putting in sheetrock now, getting the interior insulated, ductwork ran, and doing the utilities. This is actually Springdale High. We're waiting on as soon as they set a gas meter, we'll have heat and everything on the interior. All of this has been, it's starting to be finished now. So they're a lot further along. And that's all of the updates on the construction. Do you guys have any questions on any of the projects?
What's going on at Jail Kelly?
On the west side of Jail Kelly, we're adding some handicap ramps for students so they can get out of the building in wheelchairs. Several of my guys have been adding handicap ramps at multiple schools to get out to the playground and to the walking tracks, the joint use tracks. That way,
any of the kids in wheelchairs or crutches or whatever can get out there easily. Because at Jail Kelly, they actually had to go out the front and then back around. So it was pretty hard for them to get
I
around.
saw it, and I didn't know.
Yeah, so it's a pretty big project to connect all those halls that come out the west. The east side it already has sidewalks, that's where the bus loading zone is, so the west is where our issue was there.
Gotcha.
But we're doing a lot of little projects like that right now, trying to get that done before the mowing season starts.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Good evening, Dr. Cleveland Board. You'll see in front of you an updated school visit calendar. So I want to kind of give you a little background. If you'll notice, there is, get to the right slide here. Thank you. So I love this saying, great leaders don't set out to be a leader, they set out to make a difference. I think that speaks volumes about our board. I think you guys fall into this. I know at the beginning of the year, you were very anxious to be a part of our school community, and you wanted to be in supporting students, teachers, and administrators. We put together a school board site visit calendar, and we knew it would be something that we would revisit about halfway through the school year, so we did. I know we've got a lot of great input from Ms. Cook about how we could streamline the process and make it a little better for everybody. So the team went through all the schools that had yet to be visited and tried to create something that was a little more manageable for our board members. And so you'll notice.
I love this.
Huh?
I said,
But
I
these are
love
the ones
this.
that don't have anybody signed up yet.
No.
These are the ones that we have now condensed everything to be these 11.
Yeah, there's people signed up.
Yeah, what we did is now everyone's invited to, all of the board members are invited to these.
Okay. But on
And you
my
can
calendar,
select.
I was just looking at it on my phone, on the 17th of February, I show there's a board walk around at George Junior High. Is that still on?
So we took all the ones that there were already visits that had already occurred, and we condensed it down so there wasn't like 2 or 3 a week. We tried to condense it to like 1 or 2 a week at most.
So that one at George Junior High on the 17th is no more? Is that
Correct. It
safe?
would be these 11 that would be remaining,
This is
yes.
it? Okay.
Yes, yes,
And
yes,
we can all go, like we don't have
Yes.
to just be 2 or 3.
correct.
All right, so I need to go through and update my calendar.
Now, we are
obviously.
still open if you guys have not been to a school that you really want to go to. We will be more than happy to set it up. But we just wanted to get your input on one, these 11 that would be remaining. We tried to avoid Wednesdays because I know Dr. Cleveland is out, and so we tried to make 1 or 2 minor changes with that. But we wanted to check with you about the length that you're in the buildings. It's been about a little over 30 minutes. And also the format of just really kind of coming in and getting into classrooms. So wanted your feedback on that. And if you are good, we have yet to share this with administrators, but we will make sure that we get in there, and every single one of you will be invited to every one of these.
Okay. That looks fine.
I think because, I mean, several of the board members are much more technologically savvy than I am, and so they could keep track with which, and I was like, wait, I missed that one, wait, what about that? So, and, which is all my fault, not anyone else's, but I think it just would make me sad when maybe none of us would remember, or none of us would have signed up for one. So this, having it like this, for me, that I could basically put on my, refrigerator and say, okay, I'm here today, big letters by the back door, do not forget.
I think originally the intent was not to have everybody there at the same time, correct? That's why we started out the way we did.
That is correct, yes,
Okay.
yes.
It's okay to miss one.
I don't mean that I wasn't worried about me, but there were times when none of us could be there, or none of us watched, or if one forgot, there was only
Yeah.
one person signed up. And our staff all works very hard to prepare to get, even if we're only there 15 minutes, and it just made me sad when, which is me being, I guess, emotional, but made me sad for schools if we didn't show up, if y'all are always there, and they're all excited to see you, but I never want one of our schools to think we didn't want to be there. We do want to be there. We just sometimes get overwhelmed with where we're supposed to be.
Well, and I think this will streamline it because most of them, if you'll notice, their times are either in the morning or at lunchtime. The curriculum and instruction team, we're in buildings a lot of the time anyway. So because of the number of people, we'll be able to step back and kind of let the board have this time. And so that they won't feel overwhelmed with like 10 or 15 adults there. So that will help as well, I think.
So once we finish up with Jones in May, all the schools will have had at least one visit.
Yes, yes.
So will you send these out as invitations to you?
Yes, I think Ms. Smalling will, we were waiting till today to get that really solidified with you, make sure you're good with that, and then we'll go ahead and send them out. Do you want them all sent out in, like, right now for the rest of the year?
I do.
Okay.
Yes.
I think we can do that, yes.
Yep.
I would, you said you hadn't passed this on to the administrators.
The ones
I
that
I would
know.
just make sure that they know that we don't want them to bend over backwards and spend all their free time preparing for us like
We've
I know
said that.
I like to just come in and
I just like to
tour
walk
and
the
see.
building and
Yeah,
see.
no food, no something.
We don't have to roll out the red carpet for us.
We have said that at length, and then we show up and they're like, oh, we've got this great thing we want to,
Yeah.
because this is the one time that you're in their building that they
I know.
really
Yeah.
just share all the amazing stuff, so.
And if they do, that's great, it's not a big deal.
10 hours
I
before.
always feel bad,
You
because
know,
I know
we
they
go to bed
have
that
a million
night.
things to
We
do.
gotta go.
No, they're very excited about
I
it.
enjoyed being at George Junior high the other day where they just questioned us.
Where they
have
You
to
know,
go.
just took us in front of the class and, you know, threw questions at us. That was fun.
Yes.
So-
Nick, didn't you like it though,
Well, she's
when we
fine.
went to the school and the
It's the
kids
same
said
thing.
some very important
Yeah.
people are coming?
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you guys are good with that, please let us know if there's other schools that you would like to visit, and we'll make sure we get them added, in case you missed one of them, because I know some of you went to some and some were not able to. So we'll get that out, and if you got any questions, please let us know. There's everything should be already established. The only ones with red dates were the ones that we changed it one day, just so that we could accommodate not being on a Wednesday. And we'll get these out to you then. So thank you.
Thank you so much for
No,
all
thanks for
your
your
work on this.
input.
I know
That's-
it's
yeah.
been a crazy headache.
I don't think we talked about the length of time though.
So normally they've been scheduled for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Do you want to, are you guys good with that, or would you like any adjustments made?
That's fine.
Whatever they
I'd
want
like
to do is
to
good with
just
me.
keep it concise, just, I mean, I know they've got a lot of stuff that they've got going on too for us to be taking all this time.
I like the 30 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, 30 minutes is great. If it runs a minute or two late, or, no, it's no big deal.
Yeah, and I
And I
think
like how, one school did where if we had an opportunity to stay longer, we could walk the school more or see more classrooms.
Ms. Tischer and Ms. Fink both have meetings tomorrow with their principals, so they'll make sure they get this information out as well. So, okay, I'm going to let Ms. Tischer come forward. She's going to talk to you about the testing calendar.
Good evening, everyone. I placed a one-pager, just a graphic at your seat prior to you coming in this evening. I tried to keep this just really simple because testing can be incredibly overwhelming when you look at a K-12 picture. And so this is just an overview, and then I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. So beginning this month in February, our English Language Proficiency Assessment, or we refer to that as ELPA, that testing has already begun for grades K through 12. And so that testing window is January 25th through March 19th. And so our schools are working very hard to be very creative in how they are still having the ability to assess our students while maintaining safety guidelines such as social distancing and other measures that are necessary. Additionally, something that's very important for you all to know is that we are still responsible for testing all of our virtual students on site. And so when you look at the number of virtual students we have in our district and the effort that our principals are making to also assess all of those students on site, it's been quite an undertaking. The DLM is a spring window, and that window is from February 1st until May 7th. And the DLM is a dynamic learning maps assessment that a population of our special education students participate in. Then we move into March. All 11th graders will take the ACT exam on March 9th. And something to note there, at Springdale High and HAR-BER, On March 9th, students in grades 10 and grades 12 will be remote that day. They will be still accessing the full learning menu that they're accustomed to, but in order to test the entire 11th grade classes at both schools, while meeting the guidelines, it was necessary to provide a remote instruction day for those sophomores and seniors. In April, we begin our ACT Aspire assessment for grades 3 through 10. That testing window is April 5th through May 21st. And then we also do our NWEA MAP assessment, spring window for grades K through 8. And that window is April 19th through May 21st. I just put a few notes at the bottom. For Springdale High and HAR-BER High, when we are giving the grade 10 ACT Aspire on the 20th and 21st of April, all of the juniors and seniors will participate in remote learning on those days. Something that I want to note about any of the remote learning that would take place as a result of testing, parents will be communicated with that bus transportation, food service, and a supervised study environment will be available for any students not testing that may choose to report to school anyway, or need to report to school. And so a student, if it's March 9th and 11th grade is taking ACT and there's a 10th grader who needs to come to school or who chooses to come to school, they will have still bus transportation, food service, a supervised study environment where they can do their work there with support. And so that is just the at-a-glance picture of our testing cycle. Are there any questions that I can answer for you? All right, thank you.
Good evening. One of these months, I'm going to say I don't have a COVID report for the month, but until then, we'll keep going. Not this month, but I will say, hopefully after you review this data, you'll see that our numbers are looking much better, much like the numbers in the state. We've said all along, take our numbers for what they are, but they mirror what's happening in the state and in the community, and that continues to be the case. So over the last reporting period, from January 11th through February 7th, there were 469 students and staff that were positive, and that represents 2.1% of our on-campus students and staff. 97 staff members, which is 3.3%, and 358 students, or 1.8%. So out of those 469 positives, the district identified 1,368 students and staff as PCCs. We then saw 34 of those identified PCCs subsequently test positive. And you see the breakdown of our best guess on the transmission. Most appeared to be student to student, and they were generally well distributed across the schools. So elementary, middle, junior, and high school all had just about the same numbers on those. Just to give you a look back of what our numbers have been previously at these reports. Obviously, after the holidays, we saw some spikes, and now we're getting back down towards what I would classify as the pre-Thanksgiving levels. So that is good news. It certainly lightened the load for our buildings in identifying and quarantining students and staff. And so hopefully we'll continue to trend in the downward direction as far as positive cases and PCCs. Again, when you look at this once a month, it's really amazing. That very last row there, that's the positive PCCs. The very few number of students that we identify or students and staff that we identify as PCCs that then turn around and be positive. I don't know that there's any movement on changing quarantine guidelines anytime soon, but we've got some good data to support that the school setting is not a big spreader of COVID-19. Okay, so this is a new graph for you. I've reported previously on our impact survey numbers. So these are the numbers that Kathy Launder and her staff report every Friday to the Department of Education. Just a reminder of what all the terms are. Staff and students in isolation. That means those individuals have actually tested positive and are supposed to be isolated because they are sick. The quarantine is students and staff who have been identified either by us or by themselves as outside exposure and are staying away from others so that they don't get sick. When I do this next time, I'll work on the scale because those bottom 3 lines have just a little bit different scale as the top one. But you'll see what I think are pretty natural increases right there after Halloween. There was a dip, which was largely because of Thanksgiving break. And then we come back up, spike again after the holidays, and now we're trending downward. So again, these numbers are getting better. Hopefully we continue to trend down where they're insignificant and we're not needing to make these reports anymore. Do you have any questions about the data before I bring Mr. Donnell up to talk about vaccines? Okay, so Mr. Donnell is going to come up and talk about where we are with our district vaccination efforts. I will say that he and Kathy Launder have done phenomenal work to be able to roll out a vaccination program as quickly as it has rolled out from when the governor gave the green light to begin vaccinating vaccinating staff members. It has not been perfect. There are still not enough vaccines, but the work that he has done has really been incredible. I've been privileged to be a part of it. I will say that the first 2 days that we worked to vaccinate staff members was really, really fun. Just seeing the relief and the happiness of staff members getting the vaccine was really, it was a moving experience. So I'll let him update on all the details of where we are with vaccination.
I have this graph also that you just like to pass around and have a hard copy. Thank you, Dr. Cleveland and members of the board. Tonight, I'd like to give you an update on where we are with district staff COVID-19 vaccinations. On this slide, you'll see that as of today, we've vaccinated 1,575 staff members with their first dose of COVID-19 vaccination, and we'll be vaccinating 1,378 staff members with their second dose of COVID-19 vaccination later this week on Thursday and Friday, weather permitting, correct? Hopefully that the weather will hold out for us. I have to say that it was truly a team effort. I think Kendra gives me too much credit on that. It was Dr. Cleveland, Kelly Hayes, Kendra Clay, Kathy Launder, Veronica Hennessy, who's the owner and operator of a community pharmacy, Paul Miller, Trent Jones, Jeremy White. Couldn't have done it without Jeremy and his crew. These folks made it all possible. I'm just privileged to work alongside of them every day. Fantastic individuals. Currently, we have 338 staff members on the waiting list. As doses become available, we'll contact those staff members, and we will accommodate those staff members also. On the original survey that we sent out a survey to our staff that said, please complete this survey if you'd like to receive a vaccination. And on that survey, there were 1,778 respondents that they would like to receive the vaccination. And we're sitting currently at 1,575. So I think we're doing a pretty good job getting to that number on that survey. Now, each day, I probably have 30 to 50 people that say, hey, I was kind of waiting and seeing, and can you add me to the wait list? So actually that 338 wait list is probably somewhere around, I don't know, 180 to 200-ish people, and it's just grown to 338. Does that make sense? Okay. And then we also have shared a COVID, on the next slide, we've shared this slide or this document with principals to share with their staff members in case they don't want to get a vaccination with the district, you know, as part of what we're trying to accomplish. If they want to go out on their own and get a vaccination, we've shared this list of just local providers. And that's helped there with them getting a vaccination. And then we're, let's see, make sure I covered everything. Yes, I think I've covered anything. Do you have any questions? Yes.
Is staff, if they go outside the district to get the shot, are they reporting to anybody saying, hey, I got the shot?
They are not.
I know we
Now,
don't require it. But
if they were originally on the list, we've asked them to contact us and let us know that they no longer want to receive, or they've already got a vaccination, or they don't want to receive it, and we take them off of our list. But as far as staff members that have gotten a shot and haven't had anything to do with the survey or anything, we don't have any way to know that information. Maybe something we want to explore, but.
What was the pool of, how many people would have an opportunity to get it? What are our total staff numbers?
Right now, the total number of vaccinated, is that what you're asking?
No, the total that we would publish it that they had an opportunity to get the vaccine. Total staff.
3,037.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yes, 3,000.
36.
Yes.
3,036.
Yep.
That includes the subs and interns and everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
It's
that's
pretty
what-
close, I'd
yeah,
say.
It's pretty close.
Yeah.
is there a chance we're going to get another big dump of doses in our district, or are they trickling in, or what?
So
how's
that's a
it
good,
going
if
from
you can go
here?
back to that the previous slide, that's a good question. You'll notice that those dates, 1/25/21 to 2/2/21, there were 69 staff vaccinated between that time period. And what that looked like was community clinic would call me about, it just depended, it was usually about 2 o'clock. And they would say, hey, we have 20 doses, send me 20 staff members. And so then I would just go down the Friday list for where people signed up, and I'd just take those next 20 and contact those people and send them to community clinic. And then the next day they may call and say, we've got 10. The next day they may say 35.
So it's trickling in, it's not all coming on one big truck.
Right, and they don't know when they're gonna get what doses. Like, they'll know like the day before when they get doses. Now, the reason why we're able to do the second doses is there's a setback. Once you do the first dose, you're set back the second, or the pharmacies are set back the second dose. So, but we were able to do a clinic at HAR-BER High School on the second with 128 doses, which was great. So, any other questions?
So what I'm getting is 1,575 of the 3,000 total are the ones that are choosing to take the vaccine.
Correct. 1,575 currently with 300 and, what was it, 38 on the wait list. So 1,575 plus 338.
Okay.
Right.
1913.
Correct. Good with math.
63%.
That's right.
You just make that up. Pretty good.
Anybody else? Any other questions or concerns? Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you. I don't see, so we're good?
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else? Any last patron comments? Well, with that, this meeting is adjourned, and we'll see you next